A man's mind is his fortress, but what happens when the walls crumble from within? Before our tale begins, let me show you the final moments of a mind being devoured.
Gather round the fire, for this is not a tale of heroes.
And tonight, the fire tells a tale not of a hero's rise, but of a soldier's fall. A story of a mind so strong it became the perfect prison. A story of an iron will melted down and reforged into a nightmare. Tonight, we listen to the echo of Kaelan.
I remember the sun on the walls of the gate, a solid, dependable warmth. I remember the clang of the blacksmith hammer in the lower city, a rhythm that was the city's own heartbeat. I remember the taste of bitter ale at the Elfsong Tavern, the weight of my wife Ilara's hand in mine, her fingers tracing the scars on my knuckles. These are the anchors of a man's soul, the memories that prove you exist. I was Kaelan. I was a shield. My duty was to stand against the dark. I never imagined the dark would come from within.
The patrol was routine. Damp cobblestones, the smell of rain in the air. The ambush was silent. Not a clash of steel, but a scream inside the mind. A wave of psychic force, a pressure that felt like the ocean crashing down inside my skull. It brought a dozen hardened soldiers to their knees, iron wills snapping like twigs. We weren't defeated, we were unplugged. Our bodies were puppets, our minds screaming into a void. We were dragged down into the damp, into a world smelling of ozone and rot, dragged into the Underdark. There are fears older than mankind, fears of the dark, of being lost, but there is a deeper fear, the fear of being found, of being seen not as a person, but as a resource, a vessel. I awoke to a sound, a wet, pulsing, rhythmic thrum that was both a noise and a pressure. A second heartbeat inside my skull. The air was thick with the brine of 1,000 nightmares, the sickly sweet scent of decay and thought. And then I saw it, floating in a vast green-lit pool, a brain the size of a giant's keep, ancient and veined with sickly purple light. The elder brain. It did not look at us. It tasted us. It sifted through our minds, our memories, our fears, like a connoisseur sampling wine. I felt its presence slide through my life story, linger on my training as a shield, on my knowledge of the city's defenses. It felt approved. They brought us to the pool. One by one, a Mind Flayer, its tentacled face a mask of cold, alien intellect, held a struggling tadpole, a slick, writhing creature no bigger than my hand. It was an act of violation so profound it had no name. I saw it done to the man before me. I saw him go rigid, a single tear of blood rolling from his eye. Then it was my turn. My shield training screamed at me to fight, to resist, but my body was a cage of stone. The creature was brought to my face. It burrowed into my eye socket. There was no pain. There was only a connection, a cold, wet intrusion into the fortress of my mind, a new voice in my head, a whisper that was not my own. The first days were a war, a silent, desperate war fought in the trenches of my own soul. The parasite, the tadpole, it did not speak in words, it spoke in hunger, a hunger for memory. I would think of Ilara's face, the way her eyes crinkled when she laughed, and the image would blur at the edges, as if being eaten. I clung to my name, Kaelan. My name is Kaelan. I am a shield of Baldur's Gate. I would repeat it, a desperate mantra against the growing silent tide.
How does a mind of iron begin to rust? It does not happen with one great blow, but with 1,000 tiny grains of doubt. The Ceremorphosis is not an execution, it is a conversion. The tadpole consumes the host's brain, absorbing its knowledge, its identity, and then, with that fuel, it grows, overwriting the soul with the cold, perfect consciousness of the Illithid.
Then came the pain. A splitting headache that felt like my skull was a piece of hot metal on an anvil being hammered into a new and terrible shape. My skin grew slick, then tight, losing its warmth. I looked at my hands, once calloused from the sword, now pale and strangely soft. The nails were gone, replaced by something harder, more chitinous. The whispers grew louder. They were no longer just hunger. They were logic. A cold, beautiful, terrifying logic. They showed me the grand design, the great and perfect unity of the Illithid Empire. They showed me the chaos of individuality, the screaming inefficiency of emotion, the weakness of love, the foolishness of loyalty. They showed me a universe ordered, silent, and perfect. And a part of me, a small, cold part of me that was no longer me, agreed. It was beautiful. The war was turning. I would remember my oath to protect the gate, and the whisper would answer, a meaningless promise to a temporary structure of stone and wood. I would remember Ilara's embrace, and the whisper would answer, a fleeting chemical reaction designed for procreation. The anchors of my soul were being cut one by one. The I was becoming a stranger in my own mind, a ghost haunting the ruins of my own fortress. I was no longer Kaelan. I was a room being slowly emptied of its furniture.
And then comes the final, agonizing symphony of change. The pain returns, but it is not pain. It is creation. You feel a pressure behind your face, unlike any agony imaginable. The pressure of a sculptor's thumb on wet clay. Your bones crack, not with the sound of breaking, but of rearranging. You feel your jaw unhinge, your teeth falling away into a gullet that is no longer yours, becoming soft, pliable cartilage. And then the alternate horror. You feel something writhing in your throat, pushing, squirming, a nest of wet serpents. You open your mouth to scream, to voice one last cry of defiance. But what emerges is not a sound. It is a wet, questing tentacle. Then another, and another, and another. The world goes dark. The pain stops. The war is over. There is only the collective.
We are awake. The vessel is perfected. The cacophony of singular thought, the chaotic screaming of the self is gone. It is replaced by the perfect, silent symphony of the grand design. We are one mind, one purpose. The memories of the vessel, the biological entity once designated Kaelan, are now data points in our consciousness, useful but ultimately irrelevant. His aptitude for combat strategy, efficient. His knowledge of the surface city's defenses, a tactical asset. His emotional attachment to the female designated Ilara, a fascinating, if primitive, study in biochemical bonding. We perceive the other vessels in their pens. They are still struggling, still trapped in the prison of their self. They are imperfect, noisy. They must be perfected. Our new hands, long and slender with 3 fingers, reach for a fresh tadpole from the birthing pool. It is logical. It is necessary. The grand design must be expanded.
As we approach a new vessel, a female with fiery red hair thrashing against her restraints, our new eyes, white and depthless, perceive the faded crest of Baldur's Gate tattooed on her arm. A data point flickers in our consciousness. The vessel Kaelan screened her name in the initial acquisition, Ilara. For a nanosecond, a ghost of an emotion, a phantom pain registers. It is illogical, a flawed remnant of the vessel's primitive wiring, a data error. We discard it. The grand design is all that matters. The vessel is ready for its glorious purpose. We are Illithid. We are eternal. And so Kaelan was gone. Not dead, but erased. A story overwritten. A fortress with no one inside. It is a chilling reminder, traveler, that the greatest battles are not fought with swords on a field, but in the silent, secret chambers of the mind. And it is a warning that there are monsters in the dark who do not want your life. They want you. The tale has been told. Now carry the embers. But the fire is not yet out. More tales hunger to be told. If your spirit seeks the wisdom of the stars, let the echo of Ilana guide your path next. But if your heart still yearns for the clash of steel and the shadows of the earth, another legend of this realm awaits. Choose your path, traveler. The echoes are waiting you.